2, 1.
Chelsea Handler put out a comical clip about childless women that enraged the right. We're going to talk about that. Also, 2024 election is heating up, the presidential election, that's what I'm talking about. And we're talking about all of the new announcements that have come out within the last couple of weeks. DeSantis prepares to sign into legislation permitless concealed carry. Is that a good idea? And we're talking about Don Lemon. Yes, he's back on CNN today. And we're going to talk about all that has transpired about his comments regarding presidential candidate Nikki Haley. We're going to talk about all that and more next. Enemy territory here. Hello. It's Wednesday and it's time for Pop and Politics. We are talking about the latest in hot topics, news, and entertainment. I'm KJ, and let me introduce you to my co-host. We have Shelly E, Yana, T, and tonight we have with us special guest co-host and political consultant, Alexandra Levine. How's everybody tonight?
Great.
Good. All right. I'm sorry. What'd you say, T?
Doing well.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, it's the last Wednesday of the month, so we will have Tyrone Keys of Soldiers of Finance joining us in just a bit. So stay tuned for that. We have some hot topics for him, responding to some progressives regarding finance and the economy. So stay tuned. Again, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our social media. We have a brand new YouTube page. We're at Pop and Politics, so you got to subscribe. I know you guys have been watching us on Metro Conservative Media's YouTube page, but now we are here. We have our own page, Pop and Politics. So hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you like independent media and want to support what we do, donate. Any amount is appreciated. Again, you can check us out on our website at www.popandpoliticslive.com for up-to-date information. Again, we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, ladies, let's set it off. We are starting out tonight with talking about Florida. Florida is in the news. It is set to become the 26th state to allow citizens to carry firearms without permit under legislation outlined by Republican House Speaker Paul Renner. These efforts are bolstered by Governor Ron DeSantis, who has repeatedly said he would sign a permitless carry bill if lawmakers sent it to his desk. I want to get you guys' first response to this. What's your thoughts on this, Shelley?
I say shoot them up, bang, bang. Let's get locked and loaded.
All right. I want to talk to you, Alexandra. It's definitely Florida resident. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I can speak from being a Floridian. The majority of the Floridians, they love that this proposal is going to pass. Florida and Texas actually have some of the best gun carry laws. But what this does is this puts us into that constitutional carry like the state of Texas has, which is something that the people of Florida have been wanting for a really long time. And actually, under the proposal, the state will no longer require individuals to get a permit, but permits would still be an option to gun owners in case they travel to a state that do not have permitless carry. So for people that are a little uneasy about this, they're not taking away the right for you to get a permit. You still can, but this gives law-abiding citizens, people that live in the state of Florida, a chance to obtain a firearm without getting a permit. And the people of Florida are very happy about it.
All right. I want to get your thoughts on this, T. But before we do that, there have been some pushback against this law. Particularly, I'm not sure if we have the photo here, but this woman says recently a Florida toddler who found an unsecured loaded handgun in his parents' nightstand unintentionally shot and killed himself. Governor Ron DeSantis, it's Ron DeSantis, has pledged to pass permitless carry, which would strip current gun safety training requirements. Your response to that, T?
I mean, they don't know, they don't have the information, and they're trying to blame these exceptions and make it the exceptions the rule here when it comes to gun safety and gun carry. If we're teaching children as small as 2, perhaps, gun safety and gun handling, then we can prevent some of these accidents, I believe. In this case, I read the story, and they said that the father usually kept his gun in a safe, but the safe was broken, so he put it in his nightstand, which I'm sure he wasn't thinking that his 2-year-old would be able to go get it out of the nightstand while his teenage sibling was babysitting and they were out on a date. But I mean, that's kind of like common sense. You don't want to keep your gun in a nightstand. You keep it up high. That's just a part of gun safety. So I don't think that it's fair to call out these exceptions that happen to make it a rule.
Now, I want to get your thoughts on this, Yana. Are you as confident as the rest of the ladies? We do have a situation here where you'll have people who are able to conceal carry and not go through any type of education, any type of classes, as we do here in Maryland, in order to get a permit. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I have to agree that with what Ron DeSantis is doing, because I mean, gun bans don't work. Like, we can see what happens in cities where it's very difficult to
No, wait a
obtain a
minute. We're
gun.
not talking about a gun ban. I want to be
I
clear here,
understand.
ladies. Yeah, we're talking about definitely you're able to carry, but they're allowing people to carry without any type of training. That's what we're talking about.
Well,
Is that
the training, I mean, yeah, the thing is that, first of all, I have to say, I mean, we do have a Second Amendment, so we do have a right to have a weapon, regardless whether we had the training or not. So, I mean, it's advisable to have training. So it's definitely helpful for a human being to be. I mean, I would need some training before I feel comfortable with a gun, because I just, I don't want to accidentally shoot myself or somebody, So, I mean, it's definitely necessary. But accidents happen even with people who do take training. So I mean, we do have a right for it. And the thing about safety, I mean, freedom is not safe in general. So if you want to be free, you're not going to be safe. That's just a fact of life. So, I mean, it is what it is. And I think it's better to have a possibility to have a weapon so you can protect yourself in case, there's a situation where you need to protect yourself. So it's better that way than without having a weapon.
I also think we should.
Kelly, I want to get final thoughts from you on this. Being a veteran, being someone who is very advocate for gun constitutional right to carry and guns. What are your thoughts here? Is this something a good idea for people to get these permitless guns without any training?
Number one, it is a constitutional right. What other right do we have in the Constitution where we have to have an educational or sort of a poll tax for? Poll taxes were eliminated a long time ago. That there's no other right that we have to meet certain criteria in order to exercise it. It's our constitutional right. Now, as a firearms advocate and as an ardent firearms advocate, I do urge education, proper education, fundamentals, being able to handle your firearms safely and things like that. I heartily advocate that.
Not
mandatory.
But to
make it a mandate for a constitutional right that we have, no. The restriction goes on legislators, not the people. This is how our Constitution is set up. And conservatives better start getting a handle on what the Constitution really says and what it's supposed to do.
All right. We have to move right along. Again, today we have Tyrone Keys. We're bringing him up, Tyrone Keys, from Soldiers of Finance. How are you tonight, Tyrone? Oh, can you hear me?
I think his
I'm
Very
sorry about that. I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We are great. Happy to have you back on. Again, this is Tyrone Keys. You can find his YouTube channel, Soldiers of Finance. He's with us. We're blessed to have him the last Wednesday of each month with economic and financial tips and advice on various issues. So tonight, I want to take you to get your response to this clip. Take a look. This is clip number 1.
We celebrate Black History Month. I am reminded of the inseparable connection between racism and capitalism. And as a proud Black socialist state senator, I reflect on the fact that Black people were brought to this country as capital, and that slavery was capitalism in action, and that Black people were commodified, bought and sold on markets, and I'm reminded that the attacks on Black people to enrich a few people under capitalism continued after, under sharecropping, Jim Crow, redlining, for-profit prisons, for-profit policing. And I'm reminded that any journey towards ending racism in this country must come with the dismantling and abolition of a system that disenfranchises so many to make just a few very, very wealthy.
All right, so a lot to pack here. My first question to you, Tyrone. I mean, he's basically saying, well, what he did say, Black people were brought as capital and Blacks were codified and bought and sold on the market. And in order to end racism, we must end capitalism. Your response to that video?
Well, Black people were also brought here in ships. So by his logic, let's get rid of all of the nautical industry. You know, if we use his logic, you know, we're in an era where we're truly marching into an idiocracy. People in elected positions, they don't know how to critically think. They have no concept of history whatsoever. And this gentleman is just part and parcel of that. It's tragic because we're going to get more of him, not less. And he doesn't understand the first thing about the modern economy. The Chinese have a communist political system modeled on the USSR. But they're smart enough to understand that there's no way to feed 1 billion people unless they have a capitalist economic system. So this gentleman, he's way, way off base. And it's unfortunate because he is in a position of leadership.
All right, I want to open it up to just one other question, if anyone has, in regard to that video for Tyrone, or we'll move on to the next one.
I want to say something in reference to what Tyrone said, that, like he said, that idiot, and based on this last segment, China is also teaching their kindergartners and first graders how to break down, clean, put together firearms as well too. So China, they're not dumb. They may be communist, but they are far from dumb. We are the idiots right now. Just like Tyrone said, it's our country and our people who are being ass backwards, and we are paying a hardy price for it. We better wake up real quick.
Well, I think
Go ahead, Tyrone.
to add to that, when you talk about the Second Amendment issue, and I'm sure that congressman, he's not a congressman. What is his position?
I think he's I think he's a local representative.
Okay. In any event, I bet you he is anti-Second Amendment. But if you want, you can draw a direct connection between the Second Amendment and the right to defend yourself and your property. This thing was prohibited. We couldn't have that. We couldn't enjoy that right when we were slaves, when people that looked like us were slaves, or under Jim Crow. You had two groups in this country, the only two, that were actually, these groups, tyranny was legislated upon these groups, Blacks and, of course, Native Americans. And if you look at Haiti, as soon as they decided that they were going to take up arms and oust the French and end slavery, they did it. Guns were instrumental in ending slavery right here in the United States of America. We had a civil war. So, these people like this guy, like Bernie Sanders. I mean, Bernie Sanders is a millionaire.
Well, hold that thought. Hold
Okay.
that thought. He's next. I want you to get your response to this clip.
From our government, what do you mean?
I think as a nation, for example, is it acceptable that we have in the richest country on earth the highest rate of childhood poverty? All right. Is it acceptable that today you got 3 people on top who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, and we have more income and wealth inequality today than probably ever in American history?
You mean literally 3 people?
Yeah, literally 3 people. Yeah. And the other issue, when I talk about morality, here's an example. All right. Somebody goes in and shoots somebody, and everybody says, this is a criminal, put him in jail. Fine, I got that. I agree with that. But what about a CEO in a drug company who says, you know what? I think we can get away with raising the cost of insulin by another 20%. But somebody may die if you do that. Well, it's a business decision. We don't have to worry about that.
So,
okay.
Now you see what so you mentioned in the last segment, there's no way to feed 1 billion people without capitalism or something along those lines. And you see what he's twisting it and saying, well, no, we have this issue where we have the highest amount of poor people in a country where we're supposed to be so rich. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a damn lie. You're not going to tell me that the United States of America has a higher childhood poverty rate than Uganda, Somalia. That's a lie. And he knows that. The audience that he's speaking to is that late night or whatever Colbert show. They're not the brightest people on earth. Okay, let's just talk turkey. The other thing that he mentioned was the insulin piece. Now, listen, part of our business, we work with people who are going through the Medicare process. And yes, medication is expensive. But you know what? I'd rather medication that was expensive than no medication at all. Okay. And there are, believe me, dozens of programs where people who are indigent can get the medication many times directly from the manufacturer. They have tons of programs. We deal with them every single day of the week. So capitalism, and this is another thing, this is kind of another aspect of our society that's degrading. You have grown so-called men who are not willing to accept the fact that life is not fair, that you have to get out here and you have to make things work. I'm not sitting back here as a grown man expecting some great government hope to come my way and bail me out. And these guys, they're a symptom. Bernie Sanders has never done anything in his life besides run for office. Okay. The man has no claim to fame besides popularity contests. All right. There used to be a time where if you wanted to be a leader in society, you had to have gone through a battle or, created something or been known as some great intellect. Unfortunately, that is not where we are today. The least of us are becoming the people that run the country.
Yeah. And someone else, one last comment.
Well, I just want to comment on that person who was talking about socialism, and I mean Sanders as well, because he's all about socialism. So they like to bring up some tragedy that happened in the past, to Black people, because that's been used in even in the Soviet Union. Black people were used as an example of how capitalism is awful. But then they do not talk about something that is positive that also was happening with Black people in any part of the world as a result of capitalism. So, for example, I work with kids, and it's Black History Month right now. So they have all these projects on, like, some sort of inventor or famous person. And so we were learning about Garrett Morgan with one of my students. And I mean, I was surprised by a lot of these facts. Garrett Morgan was born in 1877. and he only finished 6 years of school, and then he started working in a sewing machine business, and he became rich and successful, and he actually paid for his own education. And like he hired tutors, he's like private teachers, and then he became an inventor. He invented the gas mask and the street signal, and so he was extremely successful, and it was possible because of opportunities in America, because of capitalism. He was able to have his own business. So they don't talk about stuff like that, but oh, let's talk about slavery.
You know, they don't talk about the fact that Nigerians, as a demographic here in America, are the highest educated demographic in this country. Okay. And I've never seen, and I've been to plenty of airports, and I've never seen a big line of Americans trying to leave. Okay. I've never ever seen that. And so what I think, and this will never ever happen, but what I would love to see happen is the second half of the 12th grade for every American student should be spent in a developing nation. And they will come back with one hell of an appreciation for this country. We bathe in our case, 55 gallons of perfectly drinkable water that people all over the world are. You got a mile one way to get some water, and it's an area where there are wild animals. I mean, you need these kids to spend one half of the year in a developing nation, and this country would turn around in half a generation.
Or just go right down the street in Baltimore.
Well,
see
we want to make it back, T.
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, seriously, because I took my children. I mean, we live in Baltimore City, but there are certain streets in Baltimore City that don't look like others. And so I took my children in there, and they're like, wow, like this is a completely different area than what they're used to. There's a lot of trash. First thing my daughter said, there's a lot of trash on the ground. So, I mean, don't have to go to a developing nation.
As you all know, I was born and raised in West Baltimore, north of Dukeland. And yeah, I told one of my buddies, as a matter of fact, years ago, his son was acting up. I said, why don't you just put him on the 15 bus from Walbrook Junction to the graveyard? Telling you, he would be transformed at the end of that trip. So
the idea is that, I mean, yes, there are terrible neighborhoods in America, but they still have water. They still have opportunities to get education. I mean, it's there. I mean, they have heat. I mean, yes, there's poverty, and that is a problem. But in other countries, you don't even have the basics, and people are somehow have more appreciation for what they have and the opportunities available to them in those places, or they try to get over here. And where do they move? Where do the poor immigrants move? They move to those neighborhoods,
right?
To the trashy, poor, rat-infested neighborhoods. I mean, that's where they come from, those places.
And
but they don't stay there. They don't stay there.
They either don't stay there or they turn it around.
And also,
because they open up their businesses over there, and they work as a community.
I was also going to make the point in the comment that we can fix that. We can fix the issues that are going on in Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and nationwide. We are not a third world country, and that's the problem. And that's what the socialists want to convince you, is that America is a third world country.
And let me just say this one thing, because we use that term. It's important to understand what a third world country really is. When the term was coined back at the beginning of the Cold War, a first world country was a country that had a democratic style of government. Okay. Second world was anything that was following the Soviet Union's model. Exactly. And third world was like anything that couldn't be classified in those two groups. It just so happened that third group also had economies that were in shambles. And so that's how it became synonymous with that economic piece.
Well, we definitely will continue to talk about this because I'm sure it will be a huge issue in the upcoming election. Things like this, we do find a lot the left tries to throw out these topics and issues, and so we want to be educated to talk about them as well. Thank you so much. Any last
Thank you.
thoughts, Tyrone, before we let you go? What do you have coming up on Soldiers of Finance this week?
Well, we've done a report yesterday about how Mercedes-Benz just made a decision that's going to help you build wealth if you look at it from the right perspective. And of course, we've been doing a lot on the FTX crypto fallout. And the reason we've been doing that is because a lot of retail investors that go out and work hard every day and try to put something away have put their trust in that company. So we're following it because we want to educate people on how to do their due diligence around investing.
All right. Well, you can certainly find Tyrone again on Soldiers of Finance on YouTube and on Facebook. Check him out. As I always say every week, you are a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a good evening.
All right, you too. So we are moving right along. Speaking of the presidential race, we're going to talk about it. 2024 is right around the corner. It is heating up. Today, Vivek Ramaswamy declared his candidacy for president. He is a healthcare and tech sector entrepreneur, conservative commentator, and author who has become a crusader in the culture wars. Also, last week, former South Carolina governor and ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, announced. So again, there are multiple other people that we're going to, I'm sure, are going to be announcing, including Tim Scott, possibly Ron DeSantis on the Republican side. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. I want to talk to you first, Alexandra. What are your thoughts on this today, the news with Vivek Ramaswamy? How do you think his candidacy will affect the race?
Honestly, I don't think it'll affect the race that much. Depending on which poll you look at, depending on which constituents that you talk to throughout the country. I know you mentioned my governor, Ron DeSantis. There's a lot of discrepancy right now in the state of Florida. Is it wise for Ron to run? Is it better if he stays in Florida as the governor and remains the governor? And then after he finishes his term, then shall he announce that he's running for president? So a lot of things, I think it's a little bit too soon, in my opinion, to try to put some of these names out there yet until we get, I would say, closer to the end of this year to the beginning of next year. But I don't think this new person that came in is going to make much of a difference in the term how should I say this, in the way that the polls are looking right now across the nation.
All right. I want to go to you, Shelley, because, with some people are saying, with Trump announcing so early in the campaign season that he was running and he's launching his reelection. They're saying that once this crowd gets, this race gets crowded with people like Vivek, with people like Tim Scott, with people like Nikki Haley, and who else knows, Pompeo, who else knows, it's going to be Trump's race to win, because all of them are going to kind of cancel all of themselves out, and then you'll have Trump's base going towards him. What are your thoughts there? Do you agree with that notion?
I tend to agree with that notion. I don't want the field to be crowded like it was in 16 or whatever. I don't want it to be that crowded. However, again, this is a primary. This is competition. I do have to say, I do like Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he's energetic. He is a business person. His wealth comes from him earning and making and building and producing. So he is, again, I think he has some valuable solutions for the economy overall. Of course, we have a long road ahead, but again, the more crowded the field, the better the chances for Donald J. Trump.
All right. And speaking of a crowded field, now, of course, we have Biden as the president, but it looks like, he's pushed back his announcement that was put out today. He's supposed to announce, I believe, at the beginning of March, but now he's pushed that back. So there's some questions whether or not he intends to run. Yana, what do you think? Do you believe that Biden will definitely run, or do you think that he may not?
He cannot run. He cannot even walk. He cannot even walk up or down the stairs. Like recently, he went to Europe and he fell up the stairs and down the stairs. I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's a horrible video going around of him. I'm sorry, but it's tumbling down the stairs. It's horrible. I mean, he can't run, do anything. I'm sorry. And no, it's abuse, and he's not going to do anything. I mean, I don't think he might just not make it, like just physically not make it.
I want to get your thoughts on this, T. I mean, he may not be mentally and physically prepared, but he's polling at 50% right now. I mean, his polling numbers look pretty good. I don't see why, the Democratic pool is not very strong. Looks like, based on polling numbers, Biden would be the winning ticket for the Democrats as far as when you compare him to other people. What are your thoughts? Is it best for him to run on the Democratic side?
Like Yana said, I don't even think he's going to make it, or I don't think that he'll make it through another 4 years of being the president. I mean, he's practically out of his mind already. Just from the first year of his administration, he's not really doing that well, seemingly mentally. So I don't think that he would be. It will end up being, this is politics. We know how this goes. It'll end up being a competition of popularity. So, or down to, like they say, the lesser of two evils. So whoever is the primary candidate for the Republicans, it'll be the lesser of two evils, as the Democrats call it, for pushing it for. I mean, he may even make it. Who knows?
All right. Well, I am putting it on the table tonight, Wednesday, February 22nd. It is my prediction he will definitely run. Biden, if he is alive, out of, as long as he's healthy enough, as far as he doesn't have a heart attack or he's not hospitalized or anything, he will run. I do predict that. But on the Republican side, I want some predictions from you ladies tonight. You guys are being quiet. If we had an election today, who would you vote for, DeSantis or Trump? I want to go with you, Yana.
It has to be DeSantis. I've been disappointed with Trump, so it is DeSantis for me.
All right, Shelley, DeSantis or Trump if the election is today?
Oh my gosh. You're tugging at my heart. Although I will say, as much as I love President Trump, I don't think he will be able to focus, for a presidency. Love his policies, of course. So I would probably go with DeSantis, and I would come out with tears.
All right. Alexandra, right there in Florida. You've been a hardcore Trump supporter, but you have your governor, DeSantis. Today's the election. Who are you voting for?
Honestly, and you're going to hate me for saying this, I don't want to answer that hypothetical. Honestly, I can't at this time.
Okay. All right.
Please stop being so dramatic.
Well, the thing is, I love them both. Both of them have done wonderful things for me and my family. But I will be honest with you, I will go with the majority of what the people in Florida are going with, and the majority of the people in Florida are in favor of Donald J. Trump.
And T, what are your thoughts if the election is today, DeSantis or Trump?
Well, my first choice would probably be these nuts. But then I think about it, and DeSantis, of course, all the way. If Kanye West doesn't run.
Oh my God.
Oh Lord.
All right. Well, we will remember this episode. I'm going to bookmark it. So we will go back to it and see who was right, whose prediction was right. Again, for me, though, I'm DeSantis all the way. I definitely believe he's going to run. Otherwise, he'd be like Chris Christie, and he missed his shot. If Chris Christie would have ran right after he was out of New Jersey, he may have been president. But DeSantis is in the news. He's got everything going for him. He'd be a fool not to run right now. So we will see. We will certainly see whose predictions are right or correct and whose are wrong, and then come back to this episode and check it out. All right. So moving right along to Don Lemon. So Don Lemon returned to his morning show on CNN today for the first time since saying presidential candidate Nikki Haley was not in her prime. Talking about in her prime. We were talking about all these candidates running. Looks like all of us were talking about younger candidates to take over. But Nikki Haley's talking about that too. She said during Thursday's her campaign announcement, she's talking about these older politicians are they're past generation. It's time for a new generation. And so Don Lemon took issue with that. This is clip number 2. Take a look.
About age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
We need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about
the messenger?
prime
I'm just
for being
saying
president?
what the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime and they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime according to Google or whatever it is.
Wow. So Don Lemon took a lot of slack for that. He has since apologized for those comments, but there were some people who felt like he was right. Take a look at this. This is clip number 3.
The Washington establishment has failed us over and over and over again. It's time for a new generation of leadership.
You're not a new generation. You're 51. What are you talking about?
Compared to DC, that's a new generation.
Well, but it's not a new generation. She may be younger than most of those people, but her rhetoric is the same. She's saying the same BS, and I love the young kid, but you know what? The only way you're going to get younger people to run, dude, is if you're out there talking to people and saying run. Don't sit here and say we need it to look like us. We know that, but we're not going to vote for people who don't have our best interests at heart.
All right. So we're going to settle this for once and for all. I mean, is she in her prime? I want to start with you, Shelley. Is Nikki Haley in her prime?
Look, as far as Donna Lemon, that's what women do to each other, okay? Women like to bash other women for absolutely no reason. Nikki Haley, like her or love her, whatever, she's young. She's comparatively for a presidential candidate, she is young. So Donna Lemon, she's a bitch, and so she has to be bitchy. That's what they do. I don't really care that she said that. I don't think she should be canceled for that. That's just her opinion, Donna's opinion. So I'm all for First Amendment. She didn't say anything that was derogatory necessarily. I mean, it was her opinion. So look, Donna, go suck on your lemon and just keep being the bitch that she is.
All right. I want to get your thoughts on this, Yana. I mean, was he correct? There were some people on the right who said, hey, he's telling the truth. She's not in her prime.
I mean, what is he saying? He sounded so stupid. He was like, Google it. I mean, what does he want? He wants 20 and 30-year-olds to run for president? Is that what he's suggesting? Like, what is he talking about? That was so dumb. Like, you have to be at least 35 to even run for president. So there's actually, like, people have realized that you have to be like older and mature. So she's at the right age. Like, she's not retirement age. I mean, she looks good. She's in good shape. What's the problem? And it's like, and the thing is, it's like the people on the left, I mean, they are actually racist and sexist. They're the ones who focus so much on race. When we had Biden saying that if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Like, focusing on race, seeing a person only for what they look like, focusing on gender so much, and then they forget that, and then they get so offended if it's towards them, but then they forget themselves when they if it's talking about a Republican candidate. Oh, I can say whatever I want. That's how they feel. But I mean, I think he's definitely kicking himself now.
Well, I want to get your thoughts on this, T, because she did break the point. Nikki Haley is calling. She said some of these politicians they're past their generation. I mean, we're looking at Biden. I think he'll be like 86 by the end of his presidency. Donald Trump is in his 80s and will be 82. Are they too old to run for office? Is it better to have someone young? What are your
I
thoughts?
think that absolutely it's better to have someone younger. And I think that they, first of all, they probably get in their seat. They're already getting AARP benefits when they get in their seat and they want to stay there. And that's why I'm all for term limits, because you can't be just coming to work just to come to work, if you even do that. Like, you have to be able to do your job and be cognizant of what you're doing and saying. And I just don't think that, as far as Nikki Haley and Don Lemon goes, like, he's just trying to come for her and whatever, just for ratings or whatever, because it doesn't even make sense. What he said doesn't make sense, because she is in her prime. She's still in her prime to have babies, even if she wanted to. So nothing makes sense about that comment.
Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on this, Alexandra. And then going back to what Nikki Haley said about, we have these politicians, talking about they're going to be in their 80s. America cannot put forward any young, vibrant, new ideas, new politicians. We have to go to these old guys to run for office. I mean, is there some point to that? Does it make a little bit sense?
Well, I think what she was talking about is, the older generation, like people 75 and older, need to take a competency test. And I think that was a dig on Joe Biden. So, of course, Don Lemon throws the shade back at her and says, well, you're not in your prime. You're 51 years old. You're, past, you're in menopause land. You can't have children, which, as T just said, women are having children in their late 40s and 50s. But I want to actually go in on the lie that he said. He said he kept looking up on Google a woman's prime age. He said you could Google it. They're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. That actually was not factually correct, because I Googled it. So it said a woman's prime age is late 30s to early 40s, but can extend far into their 50s. Also, a woman's prime age is someone that is considered active and in good health. I know a lot of women in their 60s and 70s that are in great shape and great health, and they have cognitive minds. And when you look at President Trump compared to a Joe Biden, President Trump doesn't look like a 76-year-old man. He certainly has the athletic ability of someone who's much younger, and he's got the cognitive ability. And he actually took a cognitive test when he was president. He got 30 out of 30. We're still waiting for Joe Biden's cognitive test to come out. Will it ever come out? I don't think so. So for, Don Lemon to do what he did, he was factually incorrect. And also you have to think about, women in different, every woman is different in terms of their active ability, in terms of their health. I'm also a professional opera singer too. In opera land, an opera singer is technically not in her prime until she's 40 years old. That is her prime, her pinnacle moment of her singing career. So for him to just say 20s, 30s, and 40s, he was factually incorrect there. So he was factually incorrect when he talked about a woman's prime age.
Okay.
I mean, it's what you mean by
Let me
prime.
ask you guys something though, because, okay, we're talking about 40s, 50s, even 60s. But we have two of the front runners for the United States of America president will be in their 80s. So, I mean, there's no debate that generally at that age you're on a decline. Is that best for us to have these, octogenarians in the White House? I mean, they're not going to be getting any tougher. They're not going to be getting any sharper. These people are on a decline. It's almost sort of comparing, let's say, a 5-year-old to a 10-year-old. There's a big difference there.
So let me say this. First of all, the fact that someone is an octogenarian or a septuagenarian, decline is not, or a mental decline is actually not automatic. Really, it's a sign that something is wrong. So you don't just automatically decline because you're 70 or 80. You don't. It's, I know we see it, but it's not.
It's someone in their 50s or 60s.
No. What I'm saying is that just like when we see Joe Biden falling and other people, that is a sign of I'm going to say a defect. There's something wrong. That is not the norm. That is really an abnormal indicator that something is wrong. So people can live well into their 70s, 80s and be healthy, even cognitively so. So that's number one. This idea of prime, it's not just a number. It's also, I think Alexandra just said, it also has to do with activity, ability. And for women in particular, usually when they're in their 40s, early 50s or so, they have raised their children. So they don't have that time commitment to young children, and they are free to do a lot of things with their time, their resources, and lend themselves to other avenues. So that part, prime is not just a number, it's relative to how they can function in society.
Mm-hmm. But are we saying that we're talking about over 80-year-old individuals running a country, not just a business, running commander-in-chief? They are also, leading armed forces, talking to diplomats and dignitaries all over the world. Is this the best we have, an 80-plus-year-old men to run our country?
I mean, I don't think I have to agree with Shelley that we don't have to look at age. I mean, I think it depends on the person and that person's ability. Older people, I mean, they're supposed to be wiser. So we have to be choosing someone who is wiser than someone who is and younger people tend to be not, I mean, they just cannot be wise because they do not have.
Usually older people are in a consultant position. There wouldn't be the main person doing things and running the job and traveling all over the country. You consult with an older person that will be your mentor or someone that you would go to get advice from, not the main person that's actually in front of everything. Is that incorrect? Or, I mean,
again, I think it depends on the person. If he is unhealthy, yeah, I don't think we should be putting people in office who are unhealthy, who are mentally, literally in mental decline. The prime depends on the activity. So for women to have children, obviously the prime is the 20s and maybe early 30s. And after that, yeah, I mean, you do have more possibilities to explore your career. And I think someone like in their 50s and their 60s, I think that's okay. I mean,
again, you're comparing someone. You're talking about someone that's ending their career to we have a president who is beginning. This is not. There's no end. There's no retirement. They're running the country. They're starting the job all over again for the next 4 years.
Yeah, but KJ, you look at the difference between, Joe Biden a couple days ago and then President Trump today. President Trump was in East Palestine, Ohio, giving out hundreds of thousands of water supplies and things to the people that were suffering from what happened in East Palestine, Ohio. We had Joe Biden going to Ukraine and Poland and saying, oh, when I drive around the United States of America, I see people with Ukrainian flags, instead of American flags. Like, craziness. And Joe Biden is supposed to be our commander in chief. So if I'm an outsider, let's say I'm a young person, I've never voted before, or I'm not a voting person, and I'm looking at what President Trump did today and what Joe Biden did 2 days ago or yesterday, honestly, I would vote for President Trump, even if I didn't know who the person was.
If you're not brainwashed to not vote Republican.
I'm sorry, say it again.
That's if you're not brainwashed to not vote Republican.
Just someone objectively who doesn't know the people, who's not even a registered, Republican. Let's just say they're an independent, but just somebody objectively looking at these two men, I would look at them as an outsider looking and saying I would vote for President Trump if I had to choose between the two, just based on what happened today and what happened yesterday with the two different men. And again, age has no factor in this.
All right.
I think, another thing is the children these days, they look at 30 and 40 as old. Because they'll say, oh, my bones are aching at 30. And I'm like, well, what do you want? What's going to happen when you're 40? What's going to happen when you're 50? They have some type of disconnection when it comes to age or the concept of age.
It's called laziness. It's called sedentary comfort.
Yeah, but I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you look at an 80-year-old person, vaginal secretions are dry at that age versus when you look at someone in their 30s and their 40s, there's no comparison between an 80-year-old woman and a 50-year-old woman, even a 60-year-old woman. We see
it just depends on what you're comparing.
Physical and mental decline.
I'm telling you, just because you're 80, it is not automatic. It's not automatic if it's a mental decline. That is not an automatic because you're 80.
Compared to a 50-year-old?
It is not automatic.
Compared to a 50-year-old?
Yes, compared to a 50-year-old. It is not automatic.
No, typically it is.
Run a company, go travel all over the world, have the same energy as a 50-year-old.
Yeah, people do that. People do that.
Yeah,
50 and 60-year-old, 80-year-old.
People do that.
Look at John Fetterman. How old is John Fetterman? What in his 50s?
John Fetterman also had a stroke.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He had a stroke, so he's not cognitively, there. He's not in his 80s or 90s. So that, and we're comparing, 76-year-old Donald Trump to an 80-year-old. Joe Biden. Joe Biden has openly said he has brain cancer. Joe Biden has openly said he's had, many things that have happened to him over the years. As we know, President Trump's health has been pretty good in terms of his cognitivism and so forth. So
I understand, KJ. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think we're in a we're in a situation where this is as good as we have.
I understand what you're saying.
We got two 80-year-plus-year-olds that we have to run. We don't have any young people to take the helm.
Right.
We do have choices. So
I can't.
It's up to the people to choose. What's important for them. So if age can be a factor to some of the voters. So why not?
It certainly is a factor. It's what I just mentioned. None of you commented on that. We're talking about a physical.
I think it just depends where you put that as a priority, like how important it is to you.
That's all. Well, it would be.
If I'm 80, 70 something years old, that's just me. But why would a 70, 80-year-old even want to be the leader of a country? Like, you should be worried about retirement and doing something with your grandchildren. I know you've had politics, because most of these people, except President Trump, most of these people are lifelong politicians. So they should be tired by now.
Right. Well, in terms of Biden, he is pushed to do it. He is not making any choices.
All of them. Biden, as Alexandra mentioned, Fetterman. These people should not be running for office. They're not well.
Those people.
But age, is T.
But what I'm saying is, it's not just because of their age. They have other declines, but it's not just because of their age.
I understand that, but the probability of something happening gets much more likely as the age goes up, especially over 80. We're talking about most mortality. People aren't even, living.
We all gonna die. Well, we all gonna die.
The question is: this something we want to put in the hands? Is this something we want to have as the leader of our nation? Someone who there's a high probability because of their age compared to younger people.
In terms of Joe Biden, I think that's why they have Kamala. I think that's
scary.
Yeah,
that's very scary.
That's scary. That's scary. No matter what, that's scary. No matter what.
That's why they have Kamala, because that maybe that they want him to run again, so he would not make it through the second term.
That's what I think. I agree with you, Young. I agree with that.
Yeah, Kamala will be president. This man is in decline. But we have to move on. We have to move on to the final subject of the night, which is Chelsea Handler. She put out a skit recently, a comedic skit, and got a lot of rage and dislike from the right. Take a look. This is clip number 4.
This is a day in the life of a childless woman. I wake up at 6 a.m. I remember that I have no kids to take to school, so I take an edible, masturbate, and go back to sleep. I wake up at 12:30 p.m. and get ready for a busy day of doing whatever the I feel like. I put on my most impractical and stylish shoes since I won't be chasing a child around the grocery store. I go to my fave spot in Paris to grab a croissant. I do a meditation sesh on the plane since I have no screaming kids, allowing me all the time in the world to become enlightened. The weightlessness of my existence has granted me superhuman powers. I teleport myself back home. Then I get ready for a night out with whatever hot guy I met on Raya that morning. I call up a babysitter and tell her that I don't need her since I still don't have kids. Now it's time for a workout, so I hit Mount Everest for a quick climb. I invent a time machine, go back in time, and kill Hitler.
Freeze, you bastard!
It's amazing what you can do when you have this much free time. And that's a day in the life of a childless woman.
Mute it.
All right, so that was Chelsea Handler. I want to also play this next clip. This was how the right reacted to her to that comedic clip. Take a look.
Behold, a day in the life of a childless woman. The point is to make you feel good about being an aging, deeply unlikable woman who never had kids. Narcissism, it makes you happy.
Feminists like Chelsea Handler, they've been lied to by their society forever. That you could be a girl boss and you can do anything a man can do, which everyone who's ever seen a woman back up a vehicle knows that's not true. Your womb resembles a dried up tumbleweed blowing down an old western town, and your Valentine's Day date for the 10th year in a row is a 10-year-old copy of Magic Mike and a half-full bottle of Xanax, and you're trying to pretend like you're happy, but you're not happy.
This lady is miserable. I mean, she is miserable, and it's written all over her face how miserable she is.
Hey everyone, I woke up this morning, well, more like this afternoon, and noticed that there was an emergency meeting of the Receding Hairline Society to discuss a comedy video I filmed about not wanting kids. Wow. Why would I even need my own children when I get to hear these crybabies all the time? I mean, I can't believe that bearded version of Tucker Carlson thinks I would take a half a bottle of Xanax. I take way more than that, you silly goose. Look, I don't want to debate whether or not I'm a girl boss, although I did just look at my bank account and think, that's pretty girl boss. And then I thought about the 10 plus different people I've been able to put through college. And then I remembered my 6 New York Times best-selling books. Or was it 5? Oh, no, it was 6. And then I remember my recent stand-up special that was just released on Netflix called Revolution. And I thought, yeah, you are a girl boss. You guys seem so triggered by me. I mean, my goodness, Tucker, I think it is time for you to ask yourself a serious question. Are you really upset about how much freedom I have? Or are you upset that you haven't been able to take it away from me yet? Oh, and quick shout out to Ben Shapiro. Thank you for helping my cause of not having children. Who needs the birth control pill when your voice is 100% effective? I don't need a husband, Ben, because I'm in a relationship with myself. And at least in my relationship, someone can get a woman to come. And by all means, Tucker, if you want to respond to my triggers, I will be happy to keep putting out videos as long as you want. I think we both know that you are hate masturbating to me. And I'm down with that.
Wow. So a lot to unpack there. I do want to make a comment. You see the man, I don't know who he was. It was on the Tucker clip. He came on right after Tucker. He said the same thing I said earlier today about the tumbleweeds. You heard that, right? So go back and replay this. But anyway, so I want to start with you, Alexandra. Do you believe that people on the right made too much of it, or are we right on?
I think you guys were right on. I mean, I'm going to talk about it from my perspective. So I'm a woman that's not married and I do not have children. And sometimes you have the freedom and sometimes it's not really a glamorous, lifestyle. You come home to yourself, you cook for yourself, you clean for yourself. You have to, think to yourself, is that guy going to call you back or is he not? Are you guys getting engaged? Like, what's going on? And then you get to a certain age where you're like, well, I want to have kids. And, what's going on with the man that I'm with? Also, we having kids, we're not having kids. So the way that she described it is, that's not reality. That's not real reality. And again, from an outsider's perspective, if I'm watching that would encourage me to actually want to get married, to actually want to have kids, because and I agree with people like Ben Shapiro, who I know very well, actually, because I met him at his first year at Harvard Law School. And I know his family. And for her to say what he said, it was disgusting, by the way. You don't say that about a modern Orthodox Jewish man and a family like that. And you just don't go there. In Orthodox Judaism, you don't go there with family and whatever and stuff in the bedroom. And Yana and her fiance can attest to that too. You just don't do that. It's so wrong. So, she's an unhappy person. She's a very, very unhappy person. And she's jealous of people that are married, that have kids, that have, that can come home to someone that can be loved. And, she says she's a girl boss and she's made all this money because she's had to, because she doesn't have a single income to help her, but she also doesn't have that. She's alienated it sounds to me like she's alienated all the men around her, to the point where she's so alpha female and she's so like caught up in her own zone and in her own lifestyle, and she doesn't want to change, that she's actually kind of like pushed a lot of men away. Mm-hmm. And that's where it comes off. Like, what man looking at that would want to love that? What man would want to come home to that when her attitude is so disgusting and so poor? And money comes and goes, by the way. She can talk about all the millions she has or whatever, but money comes and goes. You have one bad book, you do something wrong at the Daily Show, you don't have a job anymore. So that around, that was disgusting too. But yeah, I mean, it's not, sometimes being a single person is not such a glamorous life. And, she shouldn't have said what she said, and she shouldn't have done what she did.
All right, I want to get to you, Yana. I mean, this was a comedic skit. So are we making too much of it, or are we right to push back at it?
I mean, I'm surprised why she did it in the first place. Like, what was her motivation? What was the point? So, I mean, when I saw it, if I didn't know anything about her, I would think that this is satire. And then, satire in the way that to show that actually it's not that great. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's like an irony that, you don't have, obviously, if you're single and childless, you're not flying to Paris. Not every single woman is doing all that. We're not conquering. They're not conquering Mount Everest, and so a typical single woman who is not married and as old as Chelsea Handler, who's like 47. They're living day to day. They go to work. They have to take care of everything on their own. They come home to an empty apartment. That's what a real life of a real single woman is. Mm-hmm. Not doing all these glamorous things all the time. I mean, yeah, they could have some free time to have fun and travel and whatever. But that's not an everyday existence. And I think she's disgusting. She's obsessed with masturbation. I don't know what it is about her. I remember a long time ago, they were advertising her book, one of her books. It was like her biography or autobiography or something. And this was like way long time ago. And I saw the ad and I was like, oh, let me check it out. I was a very liberal girl at the time. And I got it. I threw it away after like not even finishing the first chapter because I was grossed out. She was describing like her childhood and how she was masturbating as a child, and like her and another girl she was describing. I was like, this is horrible. Like, I'm not supposed to be like, why is she even writing about this? This is so awful and gross. And so I literally threw it away. And that's all I know about Chelsea Handler. And again, she brings it up in
I want to get Shelly in on this because I mean, do you agree with these ladies, or are we taking this comedic skit too far?
Okay, I have a few comments. First, there was a song, a pop song, a popular song in the 80s, I think it said, "It's written all over your face, you don't have to say a word." And that is Chelsea Handler, number one. Number two, I disagree a little bit with Alexandra in that when you say that she shouldn't have said it because Ben Shapiro is Jewish and his family. Well, Chelsea Handler has no obligation to Ben Shapiro. I don't agree with Chelsea Handler. I don't care for her, but she has no obligation to only say nice things about Ben Shapiro. Again, I'm going to stop you there. No. Again, I'm 1A. Number three.
1 second. Alexandra, I want to get your response to that as a Jewish woman.
Yeah, I was commenting on the privacy between, you know, a Jewish man, a Jewish woman, and she said that, you know, his wife, he could make his wife come, and that I think was the disgusting thing. And
I think it was disgusting. No, I think it was disgusting, but I'm just saying, I think it was disgusting. But she has no obligation to only say nice things about Ben Shapiro because he's Jewish. And I'm just saying that the first A. Now, number three, as far as Chelsea, whatever her name is, Chelsea Handler, let me say this. She is childless. Her womb is childless, and it's also dickless. Okay. This whole thing was really about her being horny.
No. She's talked about rubber. She's
no. I'm saying she wants the squirt. She's horny. She wants sex. Yana said it. Everything is masturbation and fuck. Her womb is childless, and she's also dickless. She wants some. Okay. Now, when I was trying to get pregnant, I lost 2 before I had my daughter. But when I was trying to get pregnant, Yana, excuse you, I was trying to climb Mount Everest.
What do you mean?
What?
Yeah, they'll see you later. They'll come back to it.
I want to get your thoughts. Again, asking you, you've seen the conservative response to Chelsea Handler's skit. Are we taking her too seriously, or are we rightly to look at this way?
So on one hand, it's comedy. And I think we're forgetting comedy. You should be able to say what you want to say and do what you want to do without offending people. And if you do offend it, so what? Because it's comedy. But on the other hand, this is typical of childless, manless women who, women who can't get a man. So they try to compensate with these things that they do or talk about the things that they do or want to do. Because like someone said, they probably don't do these things in real life because all of those things that she said, someone with children can do as well. We can go to Paris. We can, go on trips with people, with our men, actually. Vacations is what they call them. So this is typical nonsense. I don't think they're overreacting. The people who were talking about it, they're not overreacting. It's just trying to find something to say about somebody, I guess. But it's not really that serious because it's comedy. And she's nobody, actually. She's trying to stay relevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She just took over the Daily Show, and so she's, I guess, trying to drum up viewership for that show. Anyone want to respond to what T said? It is just comedy, and it's not that serious.
Well, she's trying to be like I think her whole thing is that she wants to appear like what men do. That men talk about anything. They'll talk about sex. They'll talk about masturbation, and it's just part of comedy. So that's what she's trying to do. But this wasn't funny. Like, if you're funny, that's fine. Do whatever you want. Like, but it just wasn't funny. It was kind of sad and like weird.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't think the clip was funny. I did think her response was a little funny. Her response to Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro and the other gentleman. I thought that was funny.
It was clever. It was very clever.
Yeah, I thought it was clever, and I did think it was funny. I chuckled a little bit.
I mean, she said something about Ben Shapiro's voice, and it's like, listen to her voice. I mean, she sounds like a way older lady, actually. Like, her voice is awful sounding. So, I mean, yeah.
Did she date 50 Cent at one time?
Right, she did. She dated rapper 50 Cent. Yeah, she's had a couple of high-profile men that she's dated. Right. Yeah. So, well, there was definitely a lot, coming out of the right over what she said, particularly some from the pro-life movement, came out against her as well. basically from her, she's a Chelsea Handler is a very big pro-abortion advocate, and so people felt like that her this comedic skit was kind of pushing that even more. So it wasn't. It was about pushing a what do you call it? Trying to push an issue,
An agenda.
Yeah, an agenda. Right. So that's what she is. Any last thoughts before we move on? I wanted to ask you all, but outside of kind of the crassness of some of the things she said, was there any truth in what she said about single women versus married women and the independence and autonomy single women have?
Well, like I said before, in my personal experience, I find it very hard to be a single woman, especially if you want to live up to like a Chelsea Handler lifestyle. You have to work extremely, extremely hard. That whole concept of, you don't wake up till 12:30 p.m. No, I'm constantly up. I mean, sometimes I stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning and I wake up at, maybe 10 in the morning, and then, my workday just continues. I personally, I try to keep myself busy because I don't like the fact that I'm going to be coming home alone. I don't like the fact that I have to cook for myself. I don't like the fact I'm going to have to clean for myself. So I think, like I said, I think she depicted it, she depicted from her perspective, but she didn't depict it from, a perspective of the average woman who's not, a multimillionaire or, not a billionaire.
Who has to go to work.
Billionaire, lifestyle, like if I'm just saying, if I was like Laura Trump or something like that, or if I was Ivanka Trump, maybe I wouldn't get married because I'm a billionaire and whatever. But it's different, it's very, very different, and she put herself like in that one category. I also think this comes on the stems of that Miley Cyrus song, Flowers. It was brilliant how she put it together. She dropped it on the day of her ex-husband's birthday. But that whole concept, I can buy myself flowers. I can, write my name in the sand. I can do whatever I want. I can be extremely independent. I don't need a man. It's that same type of concept. It's the two parallels between Miley Cyrus's song going viral with the Billboard right before Valentine's Day, and then Chelsea Handler coming in too. And she's this power-driven woman because she said, I think it was on The View, they do need a woman now hosting The Daily Show. It's about time that they have a woman host on The Daily Show. So it's an entitlement thing. She's keeping her.
Yeah.
It's
Chelsea Handler, I mean, maybe she doesn't want kids. I don't know. But, and don't get me wrong, there are some women who don't want kids, who will never have them for whatever reason. It is not, just a bad stain as a woman, single woman, if you don't have kids. What you need, no matter what, is a purpose for your life. Okay. You need a purpose. And, talking about masturbating and climbing whatever, Mount Everest. I mean, I know she made it as a spoof, if you will, but that's basically what I got out of it, is that she's empty. Again, she's empty, not just her womb, but she's empty in her spirit.
Yeah. Well, on that thought, we are at the end of our time tonight. Very good comments, ladies, all the way around. I want to just go to each of you just to leave leave final thoughts on anything that we've talked about tonight. What are your final thoughts? I want to start off with you, T.
My final thoughts are next week is actually Women's History Month. So here we are. It's going to be interesting to see what 2023 is going to bring, because I feel like they're gearing up for it already. They've been gearing up for it. And we're going to see all of the let's see how the feminists are going to, what they're going to do now, because transgender, all these other people, it may not have anything to do with tonight, but it has something to do with Chelsea Handler, because this is the whole plot for all of the people who don't have children, or who are anti-patriarchy, or go against misogynistic men who they say are misogynistic men. And so it's just all going to end up being the same thing. Everyone's going to end up being the same talking point, same thing about women and anti-women and anti-men. So I'm going to see what's coming for next month.
All right. Final thoughts, Yana, on anything that we've talked about, something that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Well, we talked a lot about the prime and age on this show. So I guess what I want to leave you with is there's a right age for everything. So you have to do things at the right time, depending on what it is. So there's no such thing as a prime for one thing, or well, as a peak, for everyone, for all activities. So something, for example, having children, that is something that you have to do earlier in life. Getting married, also something you have to do earlier in life, if possible. I mean, everyone has a different path, but if that's something that maybe to talk to young people about, and then of course working on your career, and that is something that you can do really at any age. So that's what I can leave the audience with.
All right. Final thoughts for you, Alexandra. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Always pleasure to have you. You open invitation to come back. What are your final thoughts for anything that we've talked about on the show tonight?
Yeah, I have two thoughts. So going back to the Chelsea Handler thing, if you are single and you don't have kids, go start dating, go get married, go have kids. Don't be a Chelsea Handler. The second thought is going back to age, especially with prime age. I know people in their 30s and their 40s, they're starting out brand new careers. They're starting entrepreneurship. Age doesn't mean anything. I always say it's never too late. And my father always says, and I agree with this, it's not where you start, it's where you end. And I'm just going to leave with that.
All right. And final thoughts from you, Shelley, on tonight's show.
Well, since T said next month is Women's History Month or whatever that is, well, I'm going to encourage all you ladies, all you girls, don't take your daughters to work, take them to the range. Take them to buy a gun and teach them how to use it. So take your daughters to buy guns. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm urging all of you women to do.
All right. Well, that does it for us tonight. Again, thanks so much for watching. Continue the conversation by checking us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and subscribe. That way you get up-to-the-minute content when we post, and we appreciate the support. We are an independent media, and each time you subscribe, it helps make our voice that much stronger. All right, we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. So necessary, we were on Fox News. So we do know we have some Fox News watchers of our show. We thank you so much for that. And that is because of you guys and because of the content that we push out. So we definitely appreciate the support. You can check us out on our website at popandpoliticslive.com. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.
There's